Hi everyone. I saw a lot of hands, so I think this talk will gonna be interesting because a lot of you have already tried it. But I'm very excited to be on this stage. Very happy to see some familiar faces and some new ones. I'm also personally very excited because this would be my first time live coding, or rather vibe coding, which is the new norm, I guess. But So yeah, hi, I am Tanisha Sabherwal. I currently work as an engineer at A79 AI. We make AI agents, so that means free Cursor Pro for everyone. So huge shout out to my company for giving me free Cursor so I could give this talk today. So this is me when somebody asks me to write tests for my changes. If somebody comments on my PR or asks me to do the same. I mean, who likes to write tests, right? But one fine day, I wake up and, like every other tech Twitter person, I see this rage about this new tool in the market called Cursor. Like, why don't you try it? And I was like, sure, let me give it a try. And ever since then, this is how I write my test. So I just go into Cursor, tell it what to do, tell what all cases to test out, and it does all the things around it. So this talk is all about all the tips and tricks that I've tried around Cursor that makes my coding much more faster, much more streamlined, and I'm able to ship faster and more efficient. Before we start on to the talk, I want to know how many of you are in the first year of your job? Okay, I see a few hands. Second year of job? Okay. So boys and girls, please stick to VS Code. Don't jump onto Cursor right away. I think you need to figure out how to debug code and write code yourselves before you jump onto here. So here's a small warning for you. But I think just maintain the right balance and Cursor will become a much powerful tool for you then. So just to give context for everyone so that everybody's on the same page, Cursor has mostly three modes: the agent, ask, and manual. So the agent mode is what I think most of us use a lot. It just takes in all the context of your code and it does most of the coding tasks for you. It is the core AI coding assistant in the Cursor tool. Ask mode, I would define it more as your pair programmer, which you can ask questions to, solve bugs with, and so on. Manual is a more targeted mode where you can give it specific context and see what is happening. So let us actually see it work. So this is how the Cursor ID looks like, very similar to VS Code. And to start with, so first year, second year, this one's for you. You can use this quite a lot. I will just go it and ask, what does this component do? So I use it a lot when I want to know what is exactly happening in the code, and it does a pretty good job of telling me what and how things are done. I also use the inline editing quite a lot. Say, for example, I have this and I just try to edit it that change to tailwind, and it will do a good task of changing it inline. Pretty quick and good fixes here. So coming back here, I think I just asked what it does. It gave me a bunch of answers, that it is agenda display. You can add agenda, you have a message form, and you can submit it. So actually that is what it does. I can submit anything and it does submit, but it does not show on the screen, right? So let us try and use the agent now, and I say that after submit, my message is not visible in the agenda. So it will try to figure out what is wrong in the code and try to fix it for us. So this is more of an autonomous thing. It already has the context of most of your code base, and you can attach certain files, certain code pieces, and it will try and figure out all of those things. So yeah, this is taking a bit of time, but anyway, this should fix that. So yeah, I mean, sometimes we think AI will take our jobs, but sometimes it's pretty slow. So you will need to manually edit a lot of time. So we have an answer, and like any other good engineer, I will accept without looking at what it wrote. And let's see if it actually submits. It does. So it works. Now you're using Cursor to do all of your coding. Now let's look at a more complicated thing that this cool thing that I found out that you could do, and it works pretty well. Pretty basic to-do list. I add in a few tasks and I have a list of tasks here. Now say I want to change this timing into a more relative time, 1 minute ago, 1 second ago, a few minutes ago, something like this. So what I will go and say to it is this format time. I already have the command in here. So I will say change this format time function into a util which takes in a timestamp and returns a relative time. Now here's the interesting part. Write the test first for this util and check if all the tests pass, and then include it in the code. So let it do its magic. Now I am not a fan of test-driven development when you have to do it manually, but I find LLM is very good at writing cases for different things that you want to try out. So if it writes a baseline of what things you want to do, it will run over it, see if the tests pass, and then if it does not, it will go and make the change and then try to figure it on its own. So let it do its stuff. We can talk about a few more things that you can do with Cursor. The @ symbol. The @ symbol is the most powerful thing that you can work Cursor with. First is @context, which we saw, which is the most basic thing that we have here. You can attach context to anything, files, folders, codes, anything. What works best here is giving it very verbose prompting, giving it examples. For example, you could say make UI like this particular file, implement similar to this pattern at XYZ code, or use utils from this particular folder. In most cases, it automatically figures out your UI pattern code, but it's good to give it as a prompt. It will be much faster and much cleaner. @web, you can literally scrape web using your cursor. So you could say, what does this error mean? Or @web, how can you solve this? You can even search for any community blogs out there. So if there's any new optimization technique out there that people are talking about, just say @web, or you can even give it a link to the blog and tell me how I can include this in my code. You can ask it for examples for using XYZ version of the library that you can use in your code. So this is also a powerful thing that I use for more optimization sort of work than anything else. @docs. Now, this comes in handy because most of the docs out there, public frameworks, public libraries, are already attached in Cursor. So all you want to do is add docs and choose in your library, and you have it all there. You can use it to update your versions. It will figure out the version that you have, the version you've asked it to upgrade, do all the configuration things, and it works like a charm. @internal docs, if you have any internal docs that are not already there, you can attach the doc, a newer doc to it as well. You can also ask questions on how do I set XYZ feature on this particular version of the library, and it will suggest you all you want from the context of your code. Now, @web and @docs are very close to each other. So I found this very cool flowchart on Cursor's website. It tells you what to look for when searching different things. So if you're searching for any public framework or library, just go to @docs. You might already have it. If you are searching for something that does not have a documentation but more of a blog post, you can do @web. For any recent community knowledge or troubleshooting, you can just use @web. And for any internal company information, you can use MCPs, either private or public. Now this is by far my most favorite one, add git. So add git gives you access to all the diffs, like diff from your branch to the main branch, or diff of your working state from the current working state that's already there on the version control. It also gives you access to different branches or commits that are out there. Now, why this is my most favorite one? Because it can help you fix bugs. So you can say at diff of my branch to your branch, this feature was working in the main, but it somehow is not working anymore. Try to figure out what happened. So it will exactly pinpoint to what went wrong. Generating PR descriptions, again, something that I always get prompted on. Can I have a PR description on this PR, right? So you can just give it an add diff and it does a very good job at generating PR descriptions for you. Identifying key critical changes. Now again, you can use this diff to write any incremental steps. So any major enhancements you've done in how a component behaves, you can just add and attach the test file that you want to write the test for, cover these corner cases that you just added in this diff, or maybe flag any critical UI changes that happened. So yeah, I think that is about at. Let's see where our agent is at. So I see it did write some test, but somehow the test did not pass on, so it never replaced it. But to give you context, what here happened is, I asked it to write a test. It started with writing the test. It figured out I did not have any testing libraries installed. It installed those libraries, wrote the test for it, ran it across all of the changes, and then wrote this particular function. And here it figured out some tests fail, and then it tried to run again. Somehow some tests did not pass in here, so let's just see, replace the with the new one. Let's see if this works. So I use it mostly for more complicated tasks. This was pretty much a straightforward one, but for tasks, something like convert this markdown string into HTML. So there are a lot of semantic tags that you want to take control of. It works very well in that case. So it will write the test cases for all the tags that you need to cover for, and then it works pretty well. I think it's a little slower in here, but let's see. Did it replace anything? I think it did. Okay, I think it changed quite a bit in my code. No, guys, AI is not taking our job. We will get to it later. Let's just stash everything like a good engineer. Am I back? No, it broke everything. That is what it is. Vibe coding gone wrong. Nope. Yeah, we have it back. Anyway, that was about it. Next thing I want to cover is don't be afraid of images. Now, cursor also works pretty great with images. You have this little icon here, and I could literally say make a UI like the image attached, and I could attach a reference image. I have this grid template that I was playing around with, and it takes in the image, tries to figure out what's there, and tries to replace the UI. This also works pretty great if you can attach your error messages. And I've seen a lot of times if you have a certain error, either you copy paste, or it also works if you can attach a screen grab of what went wrong in the error. So that is also one thing that I use quite a lot. I also try to give it examples of UI patterns that I found there. So maybe a complicated component like a timeline component, it works very well when it tries to figure out how to make something like this. Let it get to it and we'll talk about something else. Setting boundaries with everything. Now, while this is good that you're giving this coding assistant a lot of control over making changes to your code, it's very important to set boundaries with. Now, remember when I asked it to run tests, it sort of automatically assumed that it has to download certain libraries for testing. Now, why did that happen? So there's something called tools. There are two levels of tools here. One is your user level rules, and one is your project level rules. So if I go in here inside rules, I have stated that always use vtest and React testing libraries for running any test. So it always has this in its context when it's making any change. So whenever we ask it to write any test, it will always use these libraries. One more thing that if you would have noticed while it was running the test is it auto ran most of the tests. So I always have this auto run mode on. It can be irritating a lot of times, but then we always have the stop button. Use the stop button as much as you can because the AI can take any course of action that might not be needed. But auto run mode is specifically helpful when you're trying to run any setup changes. It auto runs the command and then you can go and verify a lot of changes. I also always have auto fix lints on. This also, if some code that's being written by the AI agent, which might not go well with whatever linting rules that you have set up with, it will go and try and fix it. So that is also one thing. Let's see where it is at. So if I just accept the change, it did create a very close version of whatever we gave it to it. So it works very well with images, and that is something that personally is very great to work with. Now talking about rules, right? One is user level rules. You could, another examples of what you can define in user level rules is maybe you want to use certain commenting practices that is very specific to me. You can prompt it. So whenever it writes the code, it will use the same commenting practice, or certain variable naming practices that I personally use that will use it a lot. Now there are a set of project level rules that you can define your assistant to. This is very helpful because all of it is version controlled. So across team, if anyone is using Cursor, these rules will always take in effect and you will have more or less a synchronized way of coding. You don't need to write most of these rules. I think there are multiple GitHub repositories and resources out there which already have these predefined rules written in. So I just picked up a very basic template of TypeScript, Next.js, and ShadCN, Tailwind sort of a template, and it gives a lot of things: naming conventions, TypeScript usage, syntax, UI styling, and so on. So whenever it generates any code, it will take these rules into account. If there are certain rules that you think are coming out of a conversation, one good thing that you can do is you can ask it to generate rules for you. So it will generate the rules out of the conversation that you just had. So I did a masonry grid. So it will go through the conversation, realize if there are certain comments that I've given, it will go and write the rules for you and you can see it there. So if there's a very long conversation that you've had with the coding assistant, just go and ask it to generate the rules. Try and see what it has done. Try to make amends to it, and that will work pretty well. So rules, always set these rules. It will put your coding into a more streamlined version of everything. And plus, it's obviously shared across your team. So each of one will have a very close to similar experience. LLM can always be very generative in its imagination, but very close experience to what we have. So yes, this is how my coding practice now looks like. The main key items here are always give it context. The more you give it context, it will try to course correct its action and not be too imaginative or of what the coding assistant is trying to do. Be specific. Don't let it make assumptions, because then the output might not be desired or expected. And set your rules, because this will set up the guardrails of how and when and in what fashion do you want to code for. So that's me writing the test cases now much faster. Some hiccups here and there, but I think that's all we had. There are a bit of more things that are pretty interesting that you could do. MCP in itself is a pretty large topic. I think Apoorv is going to cover it in the next talk, so we'll see more of it then. But you can also generate commit messages from here, and it does a pretty great job. So no more git commit changes or random commit messages to your code changes. So you can generate these commit messages and you're good to go. Terminal. There's also one thing that I always struggle with, going to remember all the git command. So I can just go to the terminal and say revert last 3 commits. And again, it does a pretty good job of generating these commits. So these are all the miscellaneous things that I used, and it did. So this also works pretty good. So yes, that's me now after writing 10 lines of code and failing miserably. But anyway, that's how the life of a developer is. Even worse with a coding assistant, or better, we will know. And it's very funny that I put a proposal for this talk, I think 2 months back, and Cursor is already outdated. We have a new rage in the market called Claude Code. Anyone of you tried Claude Code? Do you like Claude Code better than Cursor? No? I think it does a lot of planning and a lot of pre-step that's in there. But I think there will come a convergence point where our life is not the same without these coding assistants. So hopefully you had a great time listening to the talk. Thank you so much. If you have any other tips and tricks, do come by, share with me. Would love to hear them. Thank you.